Inclusion is one of the most misunderstood words in our language. People think inclusion means inviting someone into the room, but inclusion is not about space. It is about safety. Inclusion means creating an environment where a person can bring their true selves without being punished for it. Obviously, as long as their true self doesn't harm others or break the shared rules that protect us all. Real inclusion is what allows a child at school to raise their hand with confidence. It is what allows a university student to express a new idea without fear of being laughed at. It is what allows a person to walk down the street or enter a room full of strangers and still feel safe in their identity. And it is what allows someone in any setting, social, personal, or professional, to flourish, create, imagine, and contribute without shrinking themselves. Because when people feel included, they become more intelligent, more creative, more empathic, more solution-oriented. They solve problems in better ways. They raise children with fewer psychological wounds. They build workplaces and communities with less toxicity and more trust. Inclusion isn't a moral idea, it is a blueprint for human flourishing. But there's the paradox. We live in societies that talk constantly about diversity and inclusion, yet many of us still have felt unseen, misunderstood, or quietly pushed aside. Many people were kind, but you still feel invisible. Or maybe conversations flowed, but not with you. Maybe you were invited, but not understood. You hear messages about inclusion everywhere these days, like inclusion is important, everyone's valued, we celebrate differences, you belong here. It all sounds wonderful, but inclusion is not created by slogans, posters, or perfect vocabulary. Real inclusion happens through behavior, through how we treat each other when nobody is watching. And that's what we explore here together. When I talk about inclusion, I am not talking about labels or checkboxes. I am talking about something far more human. Inclusion is connection. It is understanding. It is respect, comfort, and safety. You can place a diverse group of people in the same room, but that doesn't mean belonging will happen. Belonging only appears when people feel free to express themselves, when they feel accepted as who they are, when they feel listened to without judgment, when their differences are not just tolerated but valued, when they don't have to shrink to perform to fit in. Inclusion is not about who is present. It is about how people treat each other. Most people want to be kind. Most people don't consciously try to exclude anyone, but inclusion is still hard because we humans naturally gravitate towards what feels familiar for us. We feel safer around people who think like us, speaks like us, share our habits, understand our humor, and interpret the world the way we do. This is not cruelty, this is psychology. But it does also mean we can unintentionally overlook someone who experienced life differently, not because we reject them, but because we do not notice their world. And this is exactly why inclusion needs awareness, not perfection. Inclusion matters because it creates peace. Peace inside people, peace inside families, peace inside communities. It reduces conflict. It builds psychological safety. And psychological safety is one of the strongest predictors of creativity, learning, and problem solving. When people do not fear judgment or humiliation, their brain literally have more cognitive space to think, innovate, and grow. Inclusion matters because it allows children to develop without unnecessary drama. A child who feels safe in their identity becomes a teenager who thinks creatively, and an adult who builds healthy relationships, resilient teams, and compassionate societies. Inclusion matters for adults and for children. Even if someone didn't grow up in an inclusive or diverse environment, it is never too late to learn these skills. Awareness, empathy, and healthy behavior can be developed, but they become strongest when they practiced early in life. This is why inclusion shouldn't be treated as a nice skill to have. It should be cultural. It should be the essence of how families operate, how schools teach, how communities grow, and how societies evolve. Research in education and psychology repeatedly shows that children learn in environments that model inclusion, not just talk about it, but practicing it. They develop better emotional regulation, better emotional intelligence, and stronger critical thinking, and healthier social bonds, and deeper resilience. This is beautiful. And in adulthood, the evidence is just as clear. Teams and groups built on inclusion experience higher creativity, stronger collaboration, and significantly better outcomes. People perform better when they feel they belong. They communicate more openly. They solve problems with more flexibility. They bring their full intelligence to the table. Inclusion isn't just moral, it is practical, it is efficient, it creates better human and better results. There are two major paths through which inclusion enters societies. First is through adults, through their learning, unlearning, and growing. Some adults grow up in environments where inclusion wasn't modeled. Maybe they didn't have exposure to diversity and inclusion. Maybe they learned fear instead of curiosity. Maybe they saw differences as someone or something that is dangerous or threatening them. But adults can still grow. Good news is that they can unlearn, reflect, educate themselves, and expand their worldview. This is slower, yes, but it is absolutely possible. And every adult who learns inclusion model it for someone else, for the next generation, for their colleagues, for their people around them, for their community. Second path is through children. Inclusion happens between generations. It starts from when you are a child, where inclusion becomes culture, not performance. Children raised in inclusive environments do not try to be inclusive, they are inclusive. It becomes part of their identity, and it is amazing. A child who grows up seeing diversity as normal becomes an adult who brings peace instead of conflict. A child who grows up feeling safe becomes an adult who creates safety for others. A child who sees differences not as a threat but as an opportunity become a future leader who strengthens community rather than dividing it. This is why inclusion must be internalized, not memorized. It is not a slogan, it is not a corporate training, it is a culture, it's a way of living. And this channel exists to help you build that culture within yourself and within your families and within every space you touch. Everything I discuss on this channel will come back to three main pillars because inclusion is a behavior. It is not a theory. The first pillar is awareness. Awareness is noticing. Like noticing who is comfortable, who is uncomfortable, who is quiet, who is shrinking, who is performing because they are afraid to be themselves. Awareness is a skill of seeing human experience beyond your own. And the second pillar is empathy. Empathy is understanding that your worldview is not the only worldview. Different people process information differently. They regulate emotions differently. They communicate differently. Empathy is a bridge that connects our inner worlds. Third pillar is action. Inclusion becomes real only when it becomes behavior. Small, consistent actions like giving someone space to speak, listening without interrupting, asking what helped people to feel comfortable, recognizing their strengths, making room for differences, not just accepting it. These are small actions create an environment where people relax, open up, shine. Many people grow up feeling different, whether in their personalities or their culture, communities, style, energy, values, neurodiversity, or emotional expression. Feeling different is not a weakness at all. It's a signal that you have a perspective that world needs and values. On this channel, I will speak to both sides. How individuals who feel different can build confidence and self-belonging, and how groups can learn to embrace and include diverse perspectives. The goal is to help them to connect more meaningfully. I am Dr. Nastaran Mazdoumi, and I have spent years exploring and learning about human behavior, communication, identity, and belonging. I have seen how powerful it is when people feel understood, and I have seen how painful it can be when they don't. I created Inclusion Matter channel to help people develop the skill and run them in their life and turn the differences into strength. This channel is about emotional intelligence, healthy communication, understanding personality differences, creating a space of comfort, navigating human complexity, and more importantly, honoring authenticity and building deep connections. I'm here to offer practical tools that help us relate better to others and also to ourselves. If you have ever felt misunderstood, unseen, or simply different, this space is for you. You do not need to change yourself. You just need the right tools, the right understanding, and the right community. Here we'll learn how to connect more deeply with one another and with ourselves. So if that speaks to you, join me, subscribe, share your story, and let's grow together. Welcome to Inclusion Matter, where we take the journey into belonging together, one conversation at a time.